what's up you guys, this is Rob from Gay Guy Plays, and today on the Quick Draw, they dropped their cash for a little bit of kink when we take a look at the Secura Lecta. Okay, so for those of you who have been on my channel for a while, you know of my love for whips. I love their range, their movesets, the whip animations themselves, and I've just been waiting around for another variant to bring into higher tiers of combat. See, the Atarax's damage output is fantastic, but it kinda looks like you ripped the motor out of a blender and are whipping it around by its cord. And fashion frame-wise, at least for me, that is a no-go. So when they announced the Secura Lecta, I crossed my fingers and prayed to the DE gods, and well, this is what we got. Now, you can pick up the Secura Lecta for 125,000 standing after you've reached rank 5 with the parent sequence. Just be aware that this does require mastery rank 8 for its acquisition. Now, if dealing with money-hungry capitalist swine whose only interest is their own profit doesn't quite suit you, then I'd suggest you rank up with the parent sequence because trying to get this through trade chat without being gouged is a bit painful at the moment. Now, its primary damage type is electric, which only deals bonus damage to machinery and robotics, and suffers a resistance towards alloyed armor. But let's be real, this thing isn't going to stay that way for too long, as electricity is absolutely fantastic for elemental combos. Granting you access to corrosive, radiation, and to a lesser extent magnetic, these are some of the more potent combos to bring into battle. So be sure you're using the appropriate elemental combo in order to deal the optimal amount of damage. Now, for those of you who don't know the absolute wonder and majesty of using a whip, when equipped with Prime Reach, a majority of their attack animations have a 12-meter range and strike everything within its lash. Specific combos even have precisely aimed strikes that can hit enemies from as far as 17 meters away, while other movesets have 360-degree flourishes that strike all surrounding enemies. Whips are just fucking fantastic. Now, speaking specifically about the Secura Lecta, it got a significant boost to its base damage, bringing it from 45 all the way up to 75 points of damage, and got an equally shocking attack speed boost, bumping it from 1.0 to 1.25. This officially gives it the highest base damage and highest attack speed of all whips. Now, the only supplemental stat worth mentioning is its base stats of 25%, which is fairly hefty and does work quite well with fast melee weapons, especially those who can strike multiple targets at once. Now, as for its passive, this doubles the amount of credits that drop off of an enemy that is killed by the Secura Lecta. To over-clarify the stat, this does not cause the enemy to drop credits, but it will double the amount of credits that drop if the enemy does happen to drop them. I think many of us have come to the conclusion that the intent behind this passive is a bit misguided, considering the fact that a player with Mastery Rank 8 is hardly ever in dire need for credits, thus making the feature far less desirable than some of the others. Now, do be aware that there is word on the grapevine that this passive may be reworked, so keep an eye out for an annotation around here if it does happen. In addition, the data mines also mentioned a passive increase to its finisher speed. I went ahead and tested this versus the Lecta using varying iterations of Fury and Prime Fury to balance out their attack speed, and honestly, it just seems to be the fact that the attack speed got such a big boost that its finisher speed also followed suit. So while it technically does have a faster finisher speed, it has more to do with its innate attack speed than it does a hidden passive. Now, speaking of things that are things but aren't really things, can we talk? Okay, so admittedly when we got the email about the Syndicate weapon releases, I was fairly impressed with some of the effects. Radial slash waves, making clones, blinds, heals, and shield restores. It was all fairly creative. That is of course until I got to the Secura Lecta, which pretty much left me laughing my ass off. It's kinda like when someone you've been dating for a while tells you they're into some really kinky shit, and you find out that to them, it means blowjobs. And not just the lying in bed kind or sitting down kind, but the standing up kind too. And as a perverted, trashy human being with regular access to the internet, you have to use every fiber of your being not to laugh in their face. And maybe that's what it is. I looked at all of the other cool effects and expected this one to be on the same level. But instead of kinky and creative, I got missionary instead. I mean, I should be happy that I'm getting anything whatsoever. But the fact is, the Secura Lecta is a whip. There are so many things you could have done to make it more interesting. Increased range tied to the amount of credits you've collected, the chance to unlock lockers that it comes in contact with, or why not disarm enemies when it procs a status? See, after reviewing all of the other Syndicate weapons, it becomes pretty apparent. The Syndicate melees aren't meant to be the best, they're meant to be comparable to the best, with their passives incentivizing any sacrifice made to the damage output. These things rely on their kinks to make them interesting enough to use, and the fact is, I've already graduated from blowjobs with ice, mints, and pop rocks. These days, the only thing kinky about them is if I'm handcuffed and blindfolded, and frankly, even that is getting old. Now before this gets old, let's get back to the quick draw. So all in all, the Secura Lecta is pretty damn good. Of course, this is coming from someone who is super biased towards whips, so your own personal mileage may vary. Now, while its passive isn't game-changing in any way, shape, or form, the boost to its stats does make it a solid choice. With its attack speed, single base element, wide arcing movesets combined with its respectable status chance, this is actually a pretty good representation of what a status melee weapon should be. You don't have the standard IPS damage to roll the dice on, giving you a lot more control about what statuses you're inflicting, while tossing on a body count, weeping wounds, prime fury, and prime breach means you're quickly building up your combo counter and applying those statuses almost instantly, which allows you to actually take advantage of their effects. So while its passive may be a bit vanilla, it's the crack of the whip that really manages to spice things up. So thank you all for watching another episode of The Quick Draw. If you haven't already caught it, be sure to check out my previous Quick Draw on the Rock the Dark Dagger, as well as my latest Dress to Kill, prepping your operators for the war within. Now don't forget to do all the things that I ask you to do at the end of every one of these, and as always, remember, don't go too crazy with the pop rocks. Less is more, because more is just too messy. So, Argon the Fox asks, what weapon category do you think needs more additions? And if I could see any weapon buffed so it could be taken into endgame content, what would it be? So, the weapon category that I would love to see more additions in are whips. Give me more whips. I want dual whips, one in each hand, wapa 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 wapa.